How do you get here? I mean, how did I get here? It's a question I've been asking Erica since she sent me that email in April or May. How did I get here? When Laura called me about a month ago to interview me for the article, she was asking me a series of questions. That question kept going through my mind. How did you get, Terry, how did you get here? You know? And then it reminded me of a conversation I had with the Vice President of Spiritual Development, who was a student. I met when I was chaplain with student leaders every week, class chaplains and Vice President of Spiritual Development. And every week we meet to mentor and prep for class chapels. And one day the VP looked at me and said, I have a question for you. I said, all right. He said, how did you get your job? And I said, huh? He said, no, I want to know. How did you get your job? I said, I have no idea. Well, he didn't like the answer, and he said something like, come on, man, I want to know. How did you get your job? And I got to be honest with you, I was going to take it back. You're going to learn pretty quickly, Ryan, that if we return the university over to sophomores, they can run it for us. But how do you become a university chaplain? How did I become a college chaplain at my alma mater? The only thing I knew to say was this. I said, well, I'm not real sure, but I went to Olivet and graduated, and then I went to seminary, and I got a grad degree, and then I was a youth pastor for 23 years, and then I got asked to come back to Olivet to teach, and I taught for 6 years, and then all of a sudden the position opened, and I applied, and here I am. And he looked at me and said, I don't want to do that. To which I followed up saying, well, then you'll probably never become a chaplain at the university. I said, I can only tell you this, that it's only in being faithful and being led one day at a time that we find God gently nudging us along the way to our next thing. That's my story. That's how I'm standing in front of you. I'm grateful God has surprised me all along the way. That I was given a compass, not a roadmap. Because had I known some of the things that I would face, Mel, I just learned our dads passed away in the same year. Had I known some of the things I would have faced, it would have crushed me. And had I known some of the other things that I would experience, that I would have messed it up. You know what I mean? So this is what I found to be true for me. Every day lived, following the nudges that God places on my life. And every person sharing life with me is responsible for me becoming who I have become and why I'm here. I love Dallas Lord, and he says we're becoming today who will be forever. It's why I pray every day, Jesus, make me more like you today than I was yesterday. There's always more. I believe that nothing is wasted, that everything we do matters, that every relationship we have shapes who we become. My life verse is Ephesians 3:20, and the Message translation says it this way, that God can do anything, you know, far more than we could ever imagine or guess or request in our wildest dreams. And he does it not by pushing us around, but by working within us, the Spirit deeply and gently within us. That has been my experience. God nudging me, gently working in and through my life, taking me to places where he wants me to go that I would have never dreamed. And it's the people in our lives that God uses us, that God uses to help us along the way. I owe my life, literally and figuratively, to Jack and Sandy Holcomb. They pastored in the Church of the Nazarene for 42 years. And I never heard them say a bad word about anybody that they pastored. Never. They loved any and everyone unconditionally. They were the best. I had a great mom. I would wake up sometimes in the middle of the night and hear my dad down in our kitchen with his Bible open, praying in the middle of the night. They were the best. I miss my dad and I love my mom. Parents certainly, but friends along the way. And for me, it started with some guys at a place called Indian Lake Nazarene Camp who helped me through some of the toughest times in my life when I was being bullied and abused. And they didn't know any of that was happening, but because of boys camp and junior high camp and senior high camp, later working at the kitchen with some of these guys, it was guys like Brian and Jeff Hyde, Jimmy Coongrad, Mike and Bobby Garza, Brian, Rich Lane. I owe a debt of gratitude to them. At Olivet, Brian was my roommate for 2 years, and other people like Gary Griffin and Jim Bourbonnais, who I've been able to talk to this week to remind him of a conversation we had in the second floor of Burke, when that was still classroom space, and I had just come through a revival where I received my call. But I heard this testimony of someone saved from a life of sin, and I walked up to Jim and I said, Prof, I am going to be a youth pastor, but I don't have a story. I don't have a story to tell. What am I going to tell our kids? And Jim looked at me and he said, God didn't save you out of a life of sin. He saved you from a life of sin. And that shaped my ministry. And I owe Jim Bourbonnais for that 2-minute conversation in second floor Burke. Others like Larry Weber and Rick Reed and Daryl Slack and Steve Short and Monty Harris and Ray Moore, Ted Lee, Don Barr, Daryl Lewis. My boys on second floor Chapman for 2 years where I got to be an RA. Dave Plunkett, Randy Hale. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The friends that you make here are for life. The best thing that happened in my life happened here. Meeting my wife, Terry, my 5'2" contour. Look at that. This place gave me the best and greatest gift I could have received. Somebody who would partner with me in ministry and follow me all over the country. First time I saw her twirling the baton in the Alice Follies talent show. 2 months later, took her to the great storytelling movie by Disney called The Apple Dumpling Gang. She said yes, and she kept saying yes. And because of the yes, we're married, and we have 2 beautiful daughters. Kristen married to Luke with 4 kids. They live in Alabama, both alums of this place. Kelly married to Christopher, 3 kids, both alums of this place. The best things I had in life because of you. They were found here, in this place. You've been with me through the best and the worst, and I am who I am today mostly because of you and my love. But there are many others. Gary Gunner was my roommate in seminary. Guys like Don Heal, and Rod Jansen, and Mark Britton, and Steve Gahagan, and Alan Thompson, and Lee McCleary, Ed Heck, Fred Garber, Jerry Carter, Dave Hicks, Jeff Johnson, Chase and Melanie Walden, Dave Curtis, Gary Hartke, Deirdre Browder-Latz, Chris Pollock, John Middendorf, Woody Webb, John Bowling, Jeff Bell, Mark Quanstrom, Gary Gerstenberger, Dwayne Mills, Matt Smith, Todd Reed, and on. They're my posse. Who's yours? Today it's my Thursday morning men's group. We meet every Thursday at 7 o'clock. We share stories and we pray for each other. And we sit in the same seats. So it's Chris and Billy, and Chad, and Mike, and Ed, and Bob, and Joe and me. These are the people who continue to help me along the way. They've shown me Jesus with flesh. I am who I am today by the grace of God, but because of people and others. I stand on their shoulders and I lock arms with them as I seek to pass on what they have given me. They have helped me to become who I am. They are the reasons I've been able to do what I've been able to do with my life. It's people. It's relationships modeled first in a pastor's home, shared with my wife and those that I spent 4 years developing deep friendships with here, and carried down through the years, enabling me to stand here in front of you and honor them. The people that with God's help made me who I am. So I thank you, whoever was responsible for giving me this great honor, Dr. Chenoweth, Lisa, and the board. I love this place. I owe a debt of gratitude in my life to this place. The friendships that I have because of Olivet. The family I have because of Olivet. And how this place has shaped my kids. And the best hope and prayer I have is that one day I find myself on someone's list for the same reason that they and some of you are on. For Spencer, grace and peace.